right, again, we are back. It's the Post Podium Podcast. I am your co-host, Aramis.
And this is Keyshawn.
And this is the house of all truth, no sodium. Let's get into it. We're going to let this music ride for just a second, and then we're going to bring it right back. All right, let's get to it. Welcome to the Post Podium Podcast. And we are back talking about preseason. Like I said before, we're going to be doing 2 shows a week. We actually had a conversation yesterday. We decided we're going to switch from Sundays to Mondays. It's just a little bit easier for us to do some video review and you know, make sure that we have our notes all together and stuff like that. So here we are on a Monday, and we're going to get to it. We usually start off with a segment we like to call
Stuff We Heard. Before we get into stuff you heard, I want to say, you know what? You have to watch the video, but we are working class dads here. So, you know, on top of not getting sleep, on top of kids asking for juice, what are we going to do? We got to watch the games, but we got to watch it the right way. As Sean McDermott would say. So I got to watch the film before I make any comments. So today is a day. Today is the day.
You gotta watch the tape
where
first?
We're gonna watch some tape and we're gonna talk about it.
Oh, so, we actually gonna talk about it. We're gonna come back.
We might get past stuff we heard today.
Is this the press conference after the video review?
You know,
or is this
we did some good things, we did some bad things, but we gotta watch the film and see what we could do better.
So this is before we review the video. Okay, all right, come on with it.
But stuff we heard today. Let's see. Cowboys guy Zach Martin agrees to a revised deal and keep paying him $18 million per year, guaranteed, which is $8 million total. Bonus for him, per Adam Schefter.
I'm not really surprised. I mean, he's probably still the best guard in the league.
Yeah,
and
you got to get that done.
He wasn't being paid like it.
You got to get that done.
Yeah, this makes sense.
J.K. Dobson is eligible to take part in his first team activities at offseason. He's back off the PUP list per the team announcement. He missed the OTAs per an undefined injury and apparent tension over contract status.
I mean, he's a running back, so I think they're all entering into that space now.
He's a running back in Baltimore. So that means you need
he's even more irrelevant.
Right. You got Lamar Jackson on the team. Your running back status is up for grabs.
Yeah, I get that.
Jonathan Taylor has indeed returned to his camp, per NFL Network Iron Rappaport. He's not being activated from PUP, and the trade request remains in place. Disgruntled back has listed on site. Disgruntled back is at least on site in case of resolution for a situation in the near future.
So this is just so that other ball clubs don't get mad at him.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much, he's trying to save face right now. I mean, Jonathan Taylor he's an adequate ball player, but he's
got to be in my mind. He's got to be the standard for backs that get better treatment. Like Saquon Barkley got a deal, right? Mm-hmm. I think Jonathan Taylor fits in that mold of, you know, the superstar back, the bell cow back that you know, a team could definitely invest in and get their return on investment.
Yeah, like we talked about a couple of shows ago, there are a couple of running backs that do fit into that mold that demand a contract. Yeah, and he is one of them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Jonathan Taylor. Zach Ertz, he's back in the fold. His 2022 campaign was cut short in November, and he remains sidelined. So he is back in the fold now. He's practicing. That is also per NFL Network's Mike Garafolo. So,
he hasn't been used the same way since Carson Wentz left, and who was the guy that had Nick Foles?
Yeah, Nick Foles.
After they left, nobody in Sirianni's offense has really prioritized Ertz in the way that he used to be.
He's kind of good enough, but he's not going to be the focal point of any offense.
Yeah, he used to be like top 2, top 3 in fantasy as a tight end.
I mean, offenses have changed. They've gone wide receiver heavy, and if you have a quarterback, i.e. Josh Allen, he's going to run. Lamar Jackson, they're going to run. They're going to take off. So, you know, that along with the running back position is going to be ever changing. Jadeveon Clowney. His visits in Jacksonville has come and gone without a deal being made. After leaving Baltimore without the promise of a contract, Clowney once again concludes the visit with no deal imminent, and that's also according to Ian Rappaport.
The minimum?
It's gonna be at this point. He's probably looking for more.
I'd take him for vet minimum.
You know what? Okay.
Yeah, don't.
I mean,
don't begrudge the point.
No. It's not that. I'm just thinking about what we have working in Buffalo right now and where we stand, and we'll get into that a little more when we get into the defensive line of the Bills. But
yeah, I need to hear some stuff on that.
Yeah, I mean, where we stand, I don't know. And lastly, of lesser note, just because he's a Bills draft pick that we had. Why can't sign Tanner Vallejo?
Nobody cares.
I have nothing on that, but they signed him. He's still in the league, and we talked about it. The Milano draft. Tanner Vallejo is still in the NFL.
He's probably only on this list because you scouted him coming out of college.
He must be.
Probably.
Now let's not say that I liked him.
No.
I know he's there. I didn't like anybody. Honestly, that draft, I think that was one of my worst draft scoutings ever.
Name one person you didn't like coming out of college.
On that year?
Yeah.
I don't think I liked any of them, honestly.
Really?
I don't think, he wasn't on my list.
Okay.
He wasn't on my list.
All right. I'll let you go on that one. I won't stick it to you on that one.
I mean, you can. If you remember better than me, I please you to remind me who I like because I think I was a hater that year.
I don't even remember what year he was drafted, to be honest.
He was the year of Matt Milano. So
Matt Milano?
Yeah. So I don't honestly. If there was somebody I liked, that was the first year I think, wasn't it? Wasn't that 2017? Because Milano wasn't that the year with Tre'Davious and all them? Because that was before. Yeah.
That was
so I definitely didn't like him.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? To be fair, 2017 was a year when I said I don't know what McDermott's going to do. I don't know what he was running, so I had no dogs in the race. So. Tanner Vallejo.
You still hated the move at that time.
I hated Tre'Davious White. Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about you hated the Sean McDermott move at the time.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. So I'm glad you got this on tape. I'm glad it's on tape.
You. I mean, now we're both on that boat.
Right.
But it is what it is at this point. Really quick.
I think I'm less than you.
Huh?
I think I'm less so than you then.
Less
as much of a McDermott hater than you are right now.
Oh, I am the biggest.
I know. I'm not there.
I've already made my case for why he needs to be on the hot seat and out of here.
I've gotten better. I've been through therapy. I've been through rehab. I'm tried, and I'm 12-step process. McDermott, whatever.
Okay, well, we going out for drinks tonight then. I'm making sure you fall right back off the wagon. Let me talk to you. Put my arm around you for a minute. So as of 14 minutes ago, really quick, Ezekiel Elliott signed a 1-year deal with the Patriots. Your thoughts?
That's insane. I mean, on the surface, good on you. I don't think that he's gonna put him over the top in terms of what the Bills do this year. But I mean, it's something you got to worry about. You got to worry about a former All-Pro running back in the division. You got to worry about somebody that can bring something to an offense. Will he? I don't know. But like I said, in the vein of where the Bills stand with this, I don't really think it moves the needle that much.
I almost traded for Ramondre Stevenson like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I would have been pissed.
You would have been pissed.
Like,
no,
Elliott's going to get the early down runs. Stevenson is a great receiving back.
I know, but I don't know that Zeke is going to beat him out.
He doesn't need to beat him out. I'm just talking about from the macro, from the perspective of running backs don't get too many opportunities to be the only guy in this day and age because of how many injuries have come to those superstar backs, Todd Gurley and even Breece Hall last year.
Mm-hmm.
There's this mindset now that we need to spread out the responsibilities to make sure that we're not putting all our eggs in one basket and being stuck with a backup running back who's not as good in an offense that relies on good running back play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with this situation now, Zeke Elliott coming in and being the more experienced back and being now in his career at this point in his career more of a early down running back than he was an all-around purpose an all-purpose running back in his earlier days. I could see them, especially with the way Bill Belichick has run his running back situation for the last few years. He's had Harris and then he's had Stevenson, right? Harris was more of the, early down back. Stevenson would, and they rotated too. That's the other thing. Like both of them could do both, so they just kind of rotated. I don't know that Elliott is that great of a receiver to where Stevenson is not going to be relegated to just catching all the passes.
Yeah, but I also think that Stevenson could actually beat him on wholesale. I like you said, he is a better receiving back, but I think he also is a better running back. He's younger too. In the system, like we talked about Delvin Cook. You know, we said that he would probably be a backseat to Stevenson. I mean, he's going to take some carries away, some snaps away, but I think in the end, Stevenson, if you do have Stevenson, he's going to still be your bell cow in a sense in New England.
Okay. Well, that's it for stuff we heard. Once again, 14 minutes ago.
We finally got through it in 10 minutes.
Yeah, this is the first time ever we've gotten through all that. But it's exciting because I really want to get to the preseason game. We got a chance to see, what the Bills are going to do with some of their formations. Granted, it's preseason and we took the preseason pledge, but there were some things that they did that I think were telling as to where this offense is going.
Yeah. And I think, once again, before we do get into the preseason game, I just want to challenge everybody, everybody listening at home to let one person know, each one reach one. Let somebody know about the show. Let them know what we're doing over here on Post Podium Podcast. And once again, we don't profess to be professionals. We don't profess to be experts. We just want to be fans with you guys who want to learn and talk and discuss what's happening on the field or otherwise. So if you do know somebody that's interested in the show, if you do know somebody that's interested in the content, please let them know. They might find a home at the Post Podium Podcast.
100%. Like you said, we are working class dads. And I think that, just to be clear about the inspiration for the show real quick, we were talking about for years how hard of a time some people get when they call the radio shows or when they when they go on other shows and the Bills get talked about. There's this mindset in Buffalo where if you say anything negative about the Bills' performance, negative about the Bills' decisions, negative about, anything about the team, you're considered a hater. You're not a fan. You need to go find another team, and you're wasting your time. Yeah. And the aspect of wasting your time seemed at that time to really be, what we went up against whenever we tried to convince people, like, look, we want the team to win. Mm-hmm. It's not that we don't want that. We root for the team on Sundays and Thursdays and Mondays and every other day that they play, Saturdays. And when they don't win, we get upset because there are things that we see other teams do successfully, and there's things that we see other teams do in the offseason. There's things that we see other teams do with roster moves that make them successful. And we say to ourselves, what is the difference between our franchise and their franchise? And really what it boils down to is the people making the decisions.
Right.
Because if we're looking at where the Chiefs were 6 years ago, they had just lost Alex Smith. Mm-hmm. They had no quarterback, and nobody knew what they were going to do. At that point, people were starting to second guess whether or not Andy Reid had it when he came from Philadelphia, right? And what happens? They draft Mahomes. What's the GM's name? Brett Veach, I think it is. Yeah. But anyway, he puts together some of the best drafts in consecutive years. They drafted Chris Jones. They drafted Willie Gay. They drafted who's the other linebacker they got?
Who was it? You talking about Chanel, or are you talking about?
No. The weak side linebacker.
Who said it last week? Who was it?
We looked at it last week. But anyway, my point is this. We got tired of having to defend ourselves against people who didn't want to take an objective look at what the Bills have done to this point, both under the Sean McDermott tenure, both under the and also under the time when Ralph Wilson owned the team. We went through a 20-year span of poor decision making in coaching and GMs and quarterbacks and a bunch of other draft picks. And my boy Key over here's got the proof. I mean, there's nobody in the world that I've ever heard of putting together the amount of notes and data that this man has put together. But we can prove everything that we're talking about. So
I appreciate it. I think you're talking about Nick Bolton, right?
Nick Bolton, yeah. And actually, I'm sorry. Nick Bolton is their middle linebacker. Willie Gay is their weak side linebacker. Right. But both of them are young studs at linebacker. They're fast guys. They can play the run. They can play the pass. And those are an example of the type of linebacker that would be a much better fit in our defense, being that we play a nickel defense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just athleticism aside, what you saw. We'll get into it when we get to the linebacker, but just what you saw aside, that's kind of what you're looking for.
Yeah.
We'll definitely delve into the linebacking play from Saturday.
Okay, good. I can't wait to hear it. So that's just a little bit of a background of why we decided to start the show and get this thing going. But we're here now. This is it, and I'm gonna turn it over to you, Key. Let me hear what the offense did.
Well, I was gonna say, happy National Lazy Day to everybody. Happy National Lazy Day.
That's a thing.
That's a thing. I didn't know it until this morning.
National Lazy Day.
I was not lazy this morning. Well, once I woke up, I was not lazy. I was too busy trying to compile all my notes and get everything ready for the show. But for you guys that did partake, I hope you're awake for this offering. But first and foremost, let's get into the quarterbacks. Offensive. You want to go offense or defense first? What do you care?
Let's go defense first.
Go defense first.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do defense first.
Well, okay. I feel bad now because you got
no. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Defense is fine.
Okay.
So basically, what I saw on Saturday, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw a really aggressive defense. I did see a difference. But I saw a lot of gashing. I saw a lot of susceptibilty to the screen ball. I saw a lot of runs that weren't supposed to be there. Yep. I saw a lot of gaps that were open. And McDermott even said it, in the halftime, not presser, but halftime interview where he said that we've been sloppy with giving up yards, jumping off sides, giving up penalties. Fundamentally, just not good enough. So that tells you, okay, we're gonna, like we said earlier, we're gonna see a team that's unlike Frazier. We're going to see a team that gets after it, but what it is they're getting after, I'm not sure yet.
Well, we made a point on, I think it was Thursday last week when we did the I think that might have been our first live, but anyway, that episode we talked about the key player on the defensive line that makes the only difference when it comes to the run, and he didn't play.
Right.
We're talking about Daquan Jones.
Right.
He didn't play in this game.
He didn't play, and
it became clear that one tech, if you don't have a one tech in that defense,
huge.
It's over.
Yeah. I mean, if you notice, you didn't see a difference in the defense until Eli Ankou got in the game. I mean, Ankou actually did play really well, and I have on my notes, there's no way that this. If I was constructing the defensive line, there's no way this guy doesn't make the team. I mean, there's just no way. If you're looking at having a true one tech and a three tech next to him, you have to have. I mean, Tim Settle played a relatively good game. He opened up a couple of slots for Dorian Williams and others, but the fact remains.
Did we see Poona Ford in the game?
Poona Ford did play.
He did.
He did play.
How did he do?
He was okay. I mean, he had a couple good stops, but it wasn't game wrecking.
So and this is why I'm asking, because I'm looking at can Ankou actually make the team with who's ahead of him? You know what I'm saying? Poona Ford, I think that's a 1-year deal, right? Poona Ford
is a 1-year deal.
So you've got Daquan Jones ahead of him. You've got Tim Settle ahead of him. You have, I think Jordan Phillips is backing up Ed Oliver, right?
Right.
Yeah, you got it right here. Okay, so Daquan Jones, Poona Ford. Why is Ankou backing up Oliver? Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's
like
a
there's about 3 or 4
point.
Guys ahead of him.
Yeah, they just threw people in there. Yeah, but remember Kendall Vickers? No. DJ
so can
Dale.
You see them keeping 6 defensive tackles? Is what I'm saying.
No, they're probably gonna take 5 D tackles and 5 D ends.
Right.
But DJ Dale got hurt, so I don't know what's gonna happen with that. But he had a CT scan, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Kendall Vickers is kind of out there. Who was the other guy that we had?
Dale
Cortez
is a
Broughton.
Practice squad guy, right?
What's that?
Dale is more of a practice squad guy, right?
Definitely now. I mean, he was an undrafted free agent, so he had a shot. He looked decent when he played, but like I said, he got hurt on the one sack. So you're looking at Eli Ankou and Cortez Broughton, which Broughton didn't really show me much unless he was playing next to Eli Ankou. So yeah, I think if you're gonna, that really tells you what kind of defense they're trying to run. If they keep Eli Ankou, then they're gonna run more of a run stuffing off the defensive line. But if they decide to go and let him go and keep Tim Settle and really run with Jordan Phillips, and you're really trying to defend the pass.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I think when we. And this might have been our very first episode where we talked about, whose defense we saw between Frazier and McDermott. I think that might be the thing that was prevalent about McDermott's influence was we're stopping the pass at all costs.
Yeah.
You're not going to pass the ball on us.
Right.
Now, some of that has to do with McDermott's expertise being, he played safety.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the other part of that too is, it's a pass heavy league,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of teams are leaning pass, and statistically, it's now proven that the teams who go pass heavy win more games, right?
Right.
So naturally, the defensive mindset is that's what I got to stop. I get that, but here's the deal: you play in Buffalo,
mm-hmm.
right? And you've got the perfect quarterback to throw the ball in Buffalo, but you don't have the type of defense that can play in Buffalo.
Right.
You don't have a stalwart defense that is big and strong and tough and can stand up to teams who want to try to run it down your throat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we've talked about in the past few episodes is that you can build a team that can still play in a nickel formation on a regular basis, but can also handle the run at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to get the right players in the right positions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a majority of the positions on this team, if we switch some guys around and put guys in better positions, most of the positions would already be set, minus maybe two in my mind. And that would be defensive tackle, right? Because I'm sorry, I like Oliver, but unless you're going to have a much stronger, more run-stuffing defensive end next to him, I don't consider Russo to be that type. I consider his body type to be more a pass rusher.
Yeah, he's a tweener because his body type's a pass rusher, but his game, his skill set is more of the run stuffing.
Right, which doesn't match. Right. So I think at that point in time, you have to say to yourself, okay, even if you decide you want to just stop the pass, your team is not built to do that with as slow as it is. You need speed.
Yeah.
You need speed on the defensive line. The fastest guy you got is probably the oldest guy you got in Von Miller.
The two oldest, aren't they? Because you look at how old is
Floyd?
Leonard Floyd in relation
Floyd,
to
Floyd,
those are your two fastest guys.
31, 32 this year.
Because you're looking at, you mentioned it, you're looking at your defensive line who you're asking to get home, but there's nobody that you have that really can do that in any quick time. There's no quick twitch, there's no bendy guys, there's nothing on the defensive line that tells you that they're looking at trying to get home with the front four without a relatively stout coverage in the back seven. So. It's going to be tough to see. I know they're going vanilla, but I didn't see a lot of vanilla. They blitzed the first two defensive plays were blitzes, so they're trying to go. I don't know how exotic you're going to go, but Taylor Rapp was on the line. Jordan Poyer came up, DeMar Hamlin came up. So you didn't just drop into your cover two shell. You showed us something.
Right.
You wanted to show us that you were not. And I think, honestly, without going into great detail right now, I think they were trying to show us that they were not Leslie Frazier's defense anymore.
Yeah.
I noticed
blitzing on second down is not Leslie
That's
Frazier's
not Leslie
defense.
Frazier. But Leslie Frazier didn't give up those screens either.
That's true, too. Well, there's ways to mitigate that. And I think that's one of the things that I really wanted to see from the defense is the blitzes were man blitzes,
right?
And I think if you want to be able to handle the screen pass, you got to go zone blitz.
Mm-hmm.
And what really kind of confused me was you have a defense that is primarily zone,
right? Yeah.
How do you not have that built into your defense already? Okay, and granted, it's preseason. Maybe they didn't want to show that.
Right.
You know what I mean? But at the same time, you show a man blitz.
Yeah,
what's the point?
I just had issues with the fact that they showed. It was almost like they were trying to show this is a brand new defense. Granted, you want to move on, you want to work on what you got, but it was almost too hard. They were trying too hard to me, to kind of trying to show that this is a new look, this is a new day, this is a new team. When it doesn't have to be. We weren't bad last year.
Right.
We weren't bad, in previous iterations of Leslie Frazier's defense. We weren't bad when Sean McDermott had his influence, with the guys he drafted. So, you look at the turnover from the defense that we had in years past versus the turnover we have in this past offseason, it shows you that McDermott did have a healthy influence on who we drafted on that defense, because it was his defense to a degree. Right. He said, I can work with these guys. So what we saw on Saturday was a lot of guys getting blown out and dictated. They wanted to dictate, but they were being dictated what they could and couldn't do. Proof positive by a lot of third down conversions, and just some places shouldn't have been given up and wouldn't have been given up in years past. Mm-hmm. So I think, the defensive line, they have to hold it better on the front four. We did see evidence of wanting the linebackers to come up and occupy offensive line blockers, so the linebackers could loop or defensive backs could get home. But I don't want to rely on that. Right. Especially when you're playing against better talent than Anthony Richardson in his first NFL experience. That's when you play Mahomes, you're playing. Who are you playing this year? You're playing Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes. You're playing even Tua. If you blitz Tua with that kind of front, with that kind of view, you're getting torched. Oh yeah, 100%. So they have to get better in that regard.
When before I texted you with the Dane Jackson interception, I literally said no out loud. The same way I texted you, I was like, no, because I knew this is the start of another Levi Wallace campaign here in Buffalo.
And we said it before the game. Yeah. We did say it before the game.
Right. Yeah. It somehow, some way, it was going to happen for him. There's just this bottle of luck that Levi Wallace passed on to Dane Jackson, and now he's just got it with Sean McDermott to keep that CB2 spot. But I wanted to ask you this. Kaiir Elam spent a lot of time on the field.
He did.
In your mind, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It really depends. I think what you just said about Dane Jackson, it is what it is. He's going to get the spot. But I do think that Kaiir Elam on the field was a good thing, because you think about what we talked about in episodes past, where give the man opportunity. Get him on the field. He's the only defensive back that didn't give up a reception. I don't know if you noticed that. He did not give up reception.
He also had a pass interference.
Was it 2 or 1? I know he had the offensive pass interference.
No, I think he had a defensive pass interference.
He had that one. But I'm saying I'm trying to think, did he have 2 or not? But regardless, I mean, he had 3 targets and no completions, which is good considering. He reminds me of somebody else that was on this team, and we talked about last week. Stephon Gilmore. Yeah. Now. Gilmore was drafted number 9 overall or 10, number 9 overall. Mm-hmm. If you're gonna let a guy play, if you believe in this guy, you have to let him play. You got to let him play through whatever he's playing through,
and not in the preseason. To me, it's a little disrespectful in the preseason for you to be a first round pick
and you're playing the majority.
And you're playing 3 quarters.
Yeah,
like that. That's again. We keep saying this. They got to stop disrespecting him like that. Yeah. This whole mentality of he's got to earn it. What is the difference between Kaiir Elam's play and Dalton Kincaid's play?
Well, Kaiir Elam did something on Saturday. That's the difference.
Kaiir Elam did.
He did something. I mean,
what do you mean?
He played. I mean, he contributed. Dalton Kincaid. Yeah. I mean, I listened to a lot of post game.
He got ragdolled, bro.
Like, you saw it? Okay, I was going to say that.
Oh my God!
I mean, he did take a man, but he got thrown well out of the play every time. Yeah, time. And on the Cook run. I mean, he did. I ran it back probably 6 or 7 times to see where exactly Kincaid was.
He spent more time with his back leaning backwards.
Yeah.
Than he did pushing anybody forward, and really, and so I'll get to my.
Well, we're going to tight ends, but it's a valid point, especially when you say what did Kaiir Elam do versus Kincaid. It's not an indication of conflict between you and me, but it's just answering that question in terms of Elam did his job, and I'm not going to say Kincaid didn't, because they did let us know that Kincaid can't block.
True.
They did say he can't block. So I didn't expect him to block. I wanted him to be in this there. Guy,
right. But he's going to get thrown around the whole entire field when he tries to block somebody.
And for instance, they're not expecting him to block. But I did notice one time where he did have a pancake on a DB. Was it? Oh, it was on the. I
don't know if I respect
the Sherfield play.
I don't know if I respect that.
You don't respect it?
I don't. I mean, you.
He put him on his
6'4",
back.
250 pounds. You should be smacking.
I know, but he's 6'4", 250 pounds. He got ragged out on a Cook touchdown.
Yeah, but that was by a defensive line. That was a defensive end.
Well, like I said, you don't have to pancake. You can be handsy.
Like
you can be handsy. He got a little aggressive.
Did you see Kwity Paye spin him?
He got
I mean, the only reason Kwity Paye didn't.
Can I get him in some respect? Can I?
I get it.
No, seriously, you're right. But
the accountability factor, like in my mind,
you're right.
For you to trade up in the first round for a receiving tight end, when you had what was probably closer to a complete tight end in Dawson Knox, and you're paying Dawson Knox $46 million, that's what made me not a fan of Dalton Kincaid. Now, what he's going to be able to offer this offense running a 12 formation, I like, simply because of the amount I'll say the level of cornerback play in the AFC East, right? But when you consider where Dalton Kincaid is starting off at in his career versus where Kaiir Elam is being allowed to start off at in his career,
it's different.
It doesn't make sense. They both got traded up for. Now Elam was drafted later, but it was only, I think it was later. Was it later? It might have only been slightly later by maybe slightly 2 or 3 picks.
Couple picks, yeah.
But both of them right around the same area in the first round, right? And I would contend that Dalton Kincaid was less of a need at his position than Elam was at his.
Yeah.
So I mean, somebody's gonna have. Oh, I like this guy.
And
he's gonna be good, Michael Mayer.
And the reason why I pulled it up, and just to make your point, I mean, you made the point, but my point in pulling this up, Michael Mayer, is when we talked about the draft, you didn't need Kincaid. Right. You could have had Dawson Knox be Dawson Knox and let Michael Mayer be the inline tight end.
Yep.
And so I'm really
Mayer
interested in seeing
second round.
Yeah, he went second round. Yeah. He was there for us where we picked.
Right.
We could have traded back and got him. So I'm interested in seeing.
Make it worse, please. Make it worse. That we drafted.
Well,
you like Kincaid. But
I did like Kincaid, but I also said when we were talking about the draft, I would not have traded up to get him. I would not have been so afraid of Dallas getting this guy that we had to trade up and give up assets in order to get Dawson Kincaid. I would have been fine sitting pretty and gotten Michael Mayer, maybe even traded back a couple of slots.
Right.
Because we could have got Darnell Washington. If you really want
6'7", 265.
265. Why would you give up the farm to get this pass catching guy when you got other tight ends that are going to be available to you, whether you trade down or not? As long as you don't trade up, you're good. You don't give up anything. Right. But they gave up everything to get Dalton Kincaid, which I did like. But that was at our position where we drafted.
But again, I think the logic behind that pick goes back to the point that we've been making. I think we made this in like 4 or 5 episodes already. When you have a head coach who's been given the kind of power that Sean McDermott has been given, where the owner says it's Sean's show, he's running everything.
Yep.
He's got the same power that Bill Belichick has in New England, right? When you have a coach that has that kind of power, and he has it in his mind that before talent, before ability, before availability, before anything else, he's got to be a cultural fit. If he's not a cultural fit, he doesn't even get consideration to be in this locker room. That becomes a detriment to the level of player that you're going to be able to get in the door. And we've seen this now. We have a bunch of try-hard players. We have a bunch of, chip on their shoulder players that come from, smaller schools and played on, bad teams and stuff like that. And they come here and they have an opportunity to win a spot. They're happy to do that. They're happy to be here. All of them give us the company line. I love Buffalo. It's like a college town, blah, 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 blah. Right? But the point I'm trying to make is this. Culture has been proven to not win games, right? I think I kind of led towards this point last week when I said, I think we found out pretty clearly it was Tom Brady that was winning games for 20 years. It wasn't culture.
Right.
It wasn't the Patriot way. And now we have a head coach in Sean McDermott who thinks his culture is what got them to the AFC Championship game. Nah. It was your team taking the league by surprise because your quarterback had a couple of good receivers to throw to. Finally. Right? So, at some point something's got to give with this, but I think everything up to this point in terms of how the defense has performed, where players are in their positions, who we drafted, who we didn't draft, all of that comes back to the only point that makes sense, which is he's drafting for culture. He's not drafting for need. He's not drafting for talent. He's not drafting for ability or anything else. If the guy is a cultural fit here in Buffalo.
And that's a major detriment because at this point in time, like we talked about last week as well, you can draft for culture, but they have to have talent. They have to have more than just a fit.
Right.
So you have to do, if you're looking for a certain kind of player, you have to do better. You got to do more. You have to look deeper than the usual NFL contenders, because you not only want the best talent, but you want to also have the culture guy. So you're not going to find that out unless you do years of research. I can prove to you I'm the best fit for your culture,
right? But
unless I can put it on paper for years before, and in this case, when you talk about the Bills, you don't know you're getting drafted by the Bills. So it's got to be innate within you before you even talk about your senior year. Before you even might step on a college football field, you have to have that gene. And it's almost like McDermott.
It's got to be your DNA.
You have to have it in your DNA. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with the guy that gets it later. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with the guy that doesn't. See, I challenge McDermott to draft a couple of early entrants, because the early entrants are the better player. They're early entrants for a reason.
You talking about
just in general, not just 3 years, whatever. Yeah. Just in general, the Alabama players that come out after their junior year or their redshirt sophomore year, they're out for a reason. They're coveted for a reason.
Yeah, but he wants guys he can control.
Right.
Younger guys are going to come here as big shots, and they want to do what they want to do.
And on the flip side of that coin, you almost could control those guys because they haven't been that guy for long yet. You figure.
Yeah, but in that, I get what you're saying. Here's why I disagree. Players like that are 5-star recruits.
Mm-hmm.
Guys who are eligible and get told to enter into the draft early, right? Because these guys have agents communicating to them through other people as soon as they hit high school, right? And so I think even though these guys are, coming in young and they may be perceived as impressionable, they've been the man their whole career everywhere that they've gone.
They have.
And I don't think that mentality is going to change for them making the pros.
Well, they have, but if you figure, you talk about, we'll say, a John Mechie who comes out after his junior year, you going to tell Stephon Diggs that you're the man? You going to tell no, you're not, because Stephon Diggs going to tell you, I'm him.
Okay.
I'm that guy.
But I would love to see how successful give me Diggs' stats from training camp versus Elam, because all this. So my point is this: in bringing
versus
versus Elam in camp, right?
What do you mean? You mean when he threw the ball at him, or when he roasted him, or what?
Well, there was a couple times that Elam got roasted, but the I guess what I'm getting at is the reports about Elam being, too handsy.
Yeah.
Like this mentality that, if you have an aggressive corner and he's being aggressive, it's too much.
Right.
Like, I don't think it's the right mindset to have, if you're in practice and you say to a guy who's competing against you and also competing for a starting spot,
right,
yo, you doing too much.
No, it's not that. But see, John Mechie is going to be, the reason why I said him is because he came from Alabama. He was a wide receiver. I think he was a junior when he came up. Mm-hmm. Now, if the Bills took him, he's not going to come into the Buffalo wide receiver room where you have him, Mr. 14.
Oh,
and
it's
say,
the same position. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
You. Okay.
So, in the culture that you build, Mr. McDermott, you have to have those guys that come in here as 5-star guys. And you're right, the way the team is constructed. And that's why I picked the wide receiver room, because you have him in there. You have a Josh Allen, you could say, you gonna
do that the whole episode? You just gonna call Steph him? You gonna say him?
I think I might. H-I-M. He's him.
Oh my God! Why did I give you this idea?
I might.
All right,
no, but seriously, and the reason why I picked that is because I'm not gonna say a linebacker room, because who's really that guy in the linebacker room? Yeah. Matt Milano, okay, but he's quiet. Tre'Davious White, no. okay, you could do Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. You're not going to come into that room and tell them what you're going to do and not do, only because they're the top 2 tandem in the league.
Yeah.
But any other place on this
Poyer
team
would probably elbow you in the
he would
the
with the
forehead.
bionic one. But the reason and this is the problem. This is what we're talking about is. And I'm doing the skip Bayless hand. But the reason why I picked Steph Diggs in particular is because he has the ego. And he has that underdog mentality where I still have to prove myself even though he doesn't. If you look at Steph Diggs, he wants to get better. Every time he goes on the practice squad, on the practice field, in off season, he tries to get better. He strives for better.
But from everything I've seen and heard with Diggs being here, he's more the guy that wants to see that come out of young players, like the swag that Gabe Davis has
Perfect.
had. I strongly believe that Diggs like fostered that in
Perfect. A way. But to that point, who's going to come in and say, Diggs, this is what I'm doing? Kiss my butt. This is me. You can kick rocks. And that's
but no rookies really come like.
But that's the point. If you're that hot shot, 19-year-old guy, 20-year-old guy, you want to learn. Even though you're the 5-star recruit,
right.
You want to learn,
right? Especially from a guy like Diggs.
But we don't have the Diggses in all the different rooms, and that's the fault that I have with McDermott and how he constructed his team and his culture. In the quarterback room, we'll get to this. We're you know what? Let's get back to
no offense to guys like Frank Gore and Murray and some of the other guys that have been here, AJ Klein, like
right.
A lot of the older guys that he likes to put in the rooms with these younger guys to kind of be that den mother for everybody, they're all burnt out anyway. Right. If I'm a rookie and I'm coming in, it's like, yeah, okay, you can show me the ropes, but what else can you really show me? Because you can't play
your
anymore.
Day isn't today. Your day has been
exactly.
years past. Your old news.
And the time when you were good is a whole different NFL.
It's a whole different era.
We passing the ball now.
Yeah. And that's see, you hit it. That's exactly where I'm getting with when we talk about Frank Gores, when we talked about the guys they brought, Anquan Boldin, people like that, when they brought them in to teach you what
exactly.
You got you put somebody in a room with somebody that right now is a premier player.
I'm sorry, Anquan just. Anquan was like, "You want me to what?
Yeah, for what?
For $2 million, you want me to catch 70 balls?"
He said, "Nah, fam.
Nah, you know what? I think my retirement has just come.
I'm gonna see my way out. I'm gonna retire so I can get off this team and go somewhere else."
He sure did try.
But you know what? Let's bring it back home to the defense before we go too off the wrap, because we're actually getting to the meat of some things here.
Yeah,
and we kind of want to, we want people to follow, but this is good conversation. Honestly, I like it.
Let's go.
So I did notice. I don't know if you saw Greg Rousseau missed a sack on Anthony Richardson. He just bounced off him. It was just a bad pursuit. He over pursued.
Wait, he made contact with him and didn't get him down?
Yeah, he made contact with him and I think it was over to the right side and Richardson got away and scrambled for a nominal gain. It was 2 or 3 yards, but it should have been a loss. Okay. So that's something that you need to look at as well when we look at what Rousseau is doing, where he's coming. He did have a decent game, but once again, is he a pass rusher? I don't think so. I think he can do it, but I don't think you should expect him to give you that 10 to 12 to 15 sacks a season, because that's not what he's going to do.
So does he need to just put on 10, maybe 12 more pounds and just be that run stuffing defensive end?
I mean, if he's a true 260, I think he'd be fine with the arm length. Because you got to remember, if you have that kind of arm length, and me speaking from experience, and no, I was not that guy at all. I'm not him. Okay, so, but I can tell you, my 37-inch arms, your offensive line, they couldn't get to my body, so I could control what I was doing. Even at I was a heavier guy.
You gotta have
some
strength in them arms, though. You gotta have the muscles needed to maintain control at the point of contact as a defensive end.
Yeah.
He's what, 6'6", 260?
6'7", 260. Yeah,
right.
265.
So just think about the way that weight sits on his frame. Mm-hmm. He looks like a more slender guy. Yep. Right now, granted, I get if I was in front of him, he'd probably look bigger. But
he's a basketball player looking guy, like I said.
Right.
Yeah.
So my point is this: he's going against right tackles. Mm-hmm. Right tackles in the league traditionally are super tall and very wide.
Right.
He's going against the biggest of the linemen in most cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if he's gonna meet these guys at the point of contact, at the block, and try to shift his body weight to be in position to make an arm tackle or to drive and go low for the running back's knee or ankles or something like that, he's got to have enough strength to hold off the guy in front of him.
Yeah.
And make the play. Otherwise, I think we're going to see a lot more of what we've been seeing.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, you have to get him to settle in. He has to settle in at that run stuffing mentality. If you're asking him to be a pass rusher, it's going to be harder for him to convert to what is known as a Shaq Lawson type player. Because you look at Shaq Lawson, he's not that big of a guy. He's 6'3" or so, 270. Yeah. So they're not that far off. It's just a mentality difference. If you ask Rousseau to pass rush, then you're going to lose a lot. But if you ask him to focus on learning with Shaq Lawson versus a Von Miller, see, that's the thing. They brought Von Miller in to be the mentor for all, which it's not. He can mentor. Heck, we have nobody he can mentor on his team right now.
What was Rousseau's 40 time?
Let's see. I'm trying to find. Actually, I was trying to find on the slick tip.
Just because I'm thinking Leonard Floyd might be a better play style for him.
It might be, but
in terms
Leonard
of
Floyd as well. Leonard Floyd might be still too much 4.68 for his 40, but
that's not bad for that size.
It's good, but you got to remember, it's not straight line speed when you're a defensive end. If you look at his 10 time, his 10 time is more so what you're looking at, but also you're looking at his bend. What was his bend on any given pass rushing play?
Yeah, but here's what I'm thinking, and this is why I asked about the 40 time. Leonard Floyd, when he got moved to linebacker, he was a much more effective pass rusher, right? And so my thought process is, I think Rousseau is athletic enough and fast enough to play a similar position.
No, he could, but. You have to. Are you going to put him at linebacker? And that's something that they have to. No, I would. Oh, okay. Well, we talked about being 3-4. Right. Versatile. Yeah. I would, because if you looked at, they lined him up in a 2-point stance for the majority of the game. If you looked at Saturday, he lined up there. But
there's no way they can do that. Like in my mind, Rousseau's probably not going to get a second contract. I can't see a world where he does. To be honest with you, if you look at the way the defense is built, and you look at the amount of money that they gave to Oliver. Especially with the cap situation coming up next year, we're already $20 million over the cap.
Yeah.
I think the only way that he can survive is if he switches positions. But again, if you want to keep him here and put him at outside linebacker, those guys are, I think, getting paid. No, they're getting paid like defensive ends. Outside linebackers are now. So it's about the same cost.
They're getting paid more. Your edge rushers, they're getting paid. They're the reason why the average has gotten blown out of proportion, because of the edge rushers. That's right. Why they're trying to figure out how to get linebackers, the middle linebackers and edge rushers segregated. Right. Because the money is just there as if you're a pass rusher.
But you can't. Even in that case, you still can't keep Rousseau and keep Oliver. I mean, 6'1", 280 pounds. I'll give him 6'1", 287. I don't think he's 280.
He's more like 270.
Right.
If that, yeah.
Where are you going to put him? You put him at right end?
Who's that, Oliver?
Yeah.
You would have to.
In a 3-4, that's your more pass rushing.
Yeah, he's a 3-tech. He's a 3-tech side.
Right.
But if that was the case, you can't. And we shouldn't sit here and try to figure out how to make them fit, because that's McDermott's job.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's McDermott's job, and I'm not.
That's a good point.
I'm not trying to cut you off, but it's the fact that if you have players that can play. McDermott had, as a defensive, you have to figure out how to keep these guys and make them the most effective you can.
Right.
So if he had a defensive coordinator, that would be their job. But for me, I think when you draft a guy with the skill set of a Rousseau and an Oliver, and you have to figure out how to maximize it. And the onus is on you, and you can't make excuses for it when you're the one that did it. You didn't inherit these guys. You drafted them.
Right. Whole team is yours. Whole team is yours.
So
let's get to linebackers. Oh no, it looks like you still got a few more.
Yeah,
things.
no, I was gonna say Boogie Basham is definitely a backup defensive end. That's not an indictment. That's just saying people, the naysayers that say this guy might be on the outside looking in. Boogie Basham was all over the place.
Oh yeah, he was.
He was all over the place, and he looked good. And he's looked good when they give him opportunities. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why people say that he isn't, or he hasn't been, or he's been a liability on and off.
I think it's the pedigree.
It's the pedigree.
Second round pick. He did. What school did he come from? I don't think
he went to Wake Forest.
Yeah, it's not a big school. So.
But the thing about Boogie Basham is, like we talked about with Rousseau, you don't draft a defensive end and just typecast him as a pass rusher. You don't. And everybody can't rush the passer like that. I mean, you're going to get coverage sacks, and he did last year. But what you saw last year is his disruptive ability to stop the runs in the backfield and rush passers. So when you look at a Boogie Basham, you got to encompass all of this when you're talking about what can this guy give you as a potential backup piece in his offense or defense. And I would not
feel him and Elam are going to get starting positions at the same time.
Huh?
Probably next year when they're broke and can't afford anybody else.
And that's and his inverse is Epinesa. Epinesa was out there. He started, but I didn't notice him. He was out there. I was watching a defensive line.
He was even on the team.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah. And the thing is, and that's why I texted you earlier today, because I was watching the game again. I'm like, I can't scout this offense. I can watch this defense and tell you what's going on, but this offense is tough. And so when I'm looking at the defense, I'm seeing Epinesa's out there. Ooh, cool. Didn't do anything. But then I see Basham out there, did something. I see Anku out there, did something. I see Rousseau out there, he missed a sack. I see players out there that are playing football on the defensive line. But if you're telling me you're trying to trade Boogie Basham when he has 2 years to go versus Epinesa, who only has this is his contract year, I'm not paying him. Right. I'm not paying him, especially what you said about Rousseau. But, yeah, we can move on to linebackers now, and that's the easy one. Dodson's not that dude. He's not him. He's not him.
He's not.
Dodson, you can force him in as much as you want. You are never going to convince me this guy deserves a middle linebacker spot.
Did you see Sean, talking to him on the sideline, just giving him tips and tricks?
I didn't, because I was too disgusted. Honestly, I just had no purse.
He looked about as lost getting that advice as he did on the field.
Okay,
It
makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense because he's been in the system how long? And to say that the guy is new to, like they said about Kyle Allen, he's got to learn the ropes and he's got to go through the reps. No, Dodson's been there. He's been in his linebacker position for years now. Right. He's had the green dot as a backup for years now. So what I saw was a man who looked lost in coverage, was horrible in coverage. I saw a guy who should be replaced. So I'm interested in seeing if Bernard plays next week. I don't know why Balen Spector was relegated to third string snaps when A.J. Klein got second. So
I want to know why Dorian Williams is relegated to the weak side linebacker spot. That man was making tackle after tackle.
He was making plays, but I think they don't trust him to call the plays and get everybody lined up the right way. I think that's the major thing.
Let Milano do it.
I think that's the same thing.
Not at middle. I'm just saying.
No, I'm saying I think that's the same thing. I think they don't trust Milano to because Milano he's a man of few words. And I heard this said, who said it? Was it? I don't want to say it was Sal. It might have been Sal. I'm not sure. It might have been Joe Marino on Locked On Bills. But I can tell you, once again, that Madden logic where people, well, why don't you just not saying you, but just people saying, well, why don't you just have this person do it? If he's great at something, let him do that something. As opposed to let's add something else to his plate, because I'm not trying to mask Tyrell Dodson. He doesn't deserve that middle linebacker spot.
Right.
Where you could have had a Miles Jack. You could have had somebody else at that position right now, but you decided you want to sit on your hands and not draft somebody that can play a middle backer at a higher, higher than where you took Dorian Williams. You wanted to get your little guy last year in Terrell Bernard when Tremaine Edmonds' contract is looming. And this is what you have. This is what you have right now. Balen Spector was all over the field again. He had the green dot on his helmet with this third team. And I think he should get at least a quality shot at going in with the second team next week if Terrell Bernard, and all indications state that he's not, will go again this week. I think Spector should get it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Did you notice that Trayvon Howard stuck on that stick on the 2-point conversion?
He was another one that was all over the field.
He was all over the field. Actually, to go back to Dorian Williams, I did notice that he did have a couple misreads on gap assignments.
Okay.
So that is probably what McDermott was saying when he relegated him to the second, back to Milano. Yeah. There were a couple rips where I'm not sure if it was his gap, but I know he rushed to B gap a couple times, and the running back just went right through the A. Sure. Anku was trying to collapse it, but it just wasn't time. He got skinny. I think, what was the guy's name? I forget it. It wasn't. You know what? Zach Moss didn't play. I just thought about it. Zach Moss did not play in this game.
Who?
Zach Moss. But we're talking about Evan Hall.
Isn't he still hurt?
Is he hurt? Honestly, I don't know what Zach Moss is doing.
I think he was. I think he is.
Okay.
Hurt. I think he is hurt.
But yeah, Evan Hall, he got busy on us a couple times. He gashed us. Secondary. So what do you have about the secondary? We're moving on to our back five, we'll say, because you have to put in a slot.
Yeah.
Dane Jackson, it looks like it's his job to lose. It is his job to lose. I wouldn't mind seeing Kaiir Elam playing and learning on the fly. I really wouldn't. In the second year, what do you have to lose?
Right.
What do you have to lose? He's out there. He's confident. He doesn't look scared. He doesn't look lost. The moment's not too big. There's some simple nuances he needs to learn on the fly. And going against who was there? Pittman. Going against Pittman would have been big for him.
Yep.
So I think we did look at what they do in week 2 against the Steelers in terms of how they use Elam, in terms of what he's asked to do. That's going to really give us an indication of where he stands on this team.
Bean said something when they first drafted Elam that struck a chord with me, because I think it really spoke to a mindset that I thought at the time was good, but now I'm starting to see it might be more of a detriment. Mm-hmm. He said you have to be careful with first and second round, a first round corner. And I think he was more so talking about any player you draft in the first round. You have to manage expectations of that player, so that their confidence is not destroyed if they don't produce right away. Mm-hmm. And the way he said it was as if you do that to protect the player from the judgment of the fans, mm-hmm. the roar of the fans, whether it's good roar or bad roar. And I think to a degree, he may have meant that in the most innocent way, but hearing that now, just playing it back in my mind now, it seems more like it's a way to manage the amount of money you'll have to pay that first round pick in the future, because he's less productive. He won't have enough numbers to throw at you when it comes time to sign that contract. Yeah. Secondly, it puts the player in a position to have to, in a way, humble themselves in areas that they don't necessarily need to humble themselves. You get what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I think Kaiir Elam came to this franchise with a mindset that he's going to help us win a championship. And being drafted in the first round usually means you're going to get a starting spot. Somehow on this team, it doesn't.
I was saying, most teams, yes, that's what it means.
On this team, it means you probably are not going to get the starting job your first year, which is what most college teams do. Mm-hmm. You redshirt or you just sit out flat out. You just sit out your freshman year, and you learn, right? Mm-hmm. But this is so much of a different game now, where players are being prepared for their positions much better in college than they ever were in the past, in terms of the styles of offenses they run, in terms of the training that's available to these players now, the trainers that are available to these players at younger ages now, the lifestyle that's available to these players now. They're not coming into an NFL where they're making millions of dollars and their whole entire career as a player, nobody ever discovered them or tried to give them anything, right? That stuff is so prevalent in NIL deals now. There's players that are in high school getting NIL deals.
Right.
So those guys coming into the NFL who are already getting NIL deals are not going to be thrown off by the amount of money they make. It's just going to be more than what they're used to making.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because they've been making money, big money this whole time, their whole career pretty much. So I'm saying all that to say, the players that you draft in the first round nowadays should be able to handle that responsibility with no problem. And if they have a few hiccups along the way, you let them learn. Like you said, you get them in there, you let them get experience, because there's certain things that you have to learn through doing. Mm-hmm. Like me, myself, I'm a hands-on person. You could sit here all day long and explain to me eye to eyeball and tell me this is how you do it. When you're doing it like this, you have to think about this when you're doing it. And it's not going to mean anything until you show me how to do it. Let me get my hands dirty.
Right.
Let me tackle somebody. Like it was proven last year. The more playing time he got, the better he got.
And honestly, with regards to Elam, I think when you're looking at who's behind him this year, Poyer and Hyde, you have to let them go. You have to let them go.
This is going to be the best, the best secondary that he could have, because next year is not going to be here.
No.
And what you going to do now? Now you want to start him next year?
Yeah, next year you're looking at DeMar Hamlin and to be determined.
Jaquan Jones, is Jaquan Jones still?
No, he's gone. So you're looking at Cam Lewis and DeMar Hamlin right now, or Taylor Rapp if you want to re-sign him.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to
I would
can
be happy
re-sign
if they
him,
re-sign Rapp.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you can as well, depending on what the money looks like, what he's interested. Because I know he's not that young. He's not old. He's like 27, 28 years old. Yeah. But to get off the damper of what we have in regards to Taylor Rapp's looming contract negotiations before the season started,
the doldrums of Taylor Rapp contract talk.
It's gonna be interesting. Jamarcus Ingram actually flashed. I don't know if you noticed it. The reason why I look at him is because he got some quality play last year.
That's the 6'2" corner we got, right?
He's he's undrafted out of UB.
Okay.
Gets his nose dirty, gets in there. I mean, he gets busy. He gets active. He nice slot in a pinch.
He's probably got a better shot than Elam at this point.
And lastly, when it comes to defensive backs, I know we talked about DeMar Hamlin last week and the feel good story, but he actually backed it up. He was in there on some stops. He was in there on some murky situations that you would think, is he going to pull up? Is he going to, second guess? No, he had his nose in there.
Yeah, he got that bionic plate up under his shoulder.
Yeah,
pads.
He did. I saw that. Yeah, he did have something. But, hey, he was in there. And I think like we talked about, his contract doesn't really determine whether he makes the team because, he got the money already. But he is showing why he's still on the team and why he has a serious case at making not only the practice squad, not only making the Bills organization, but the 53.
I honestly hope he's not just a hood ornament. I really do. It's just he's probably the fourth best now with Taylor Rapp on the team, but he's the fourth best safety on the team. Yeah,
and that's being as honest as possible. Yeah, he's the fourth. And that's not saying anything because Taylor Rapp was a starter in a Super Bowl team, and obviously the top two. So DeMar Hamlin actually he proved his worth, and you figure behind him what do you have? You're talking about was it Maben? Yeah,
Maiden. I think I don't know.
Let's look. Hold on, I have it up. Let's look.
Who cares?
No, I can't. It is important because it's where are we? Jared Maiden. So behind him is Zane Anderson. I mean, Zane Anderson was a special teams player, and I mean he made some stops, but I didn't like anything enough from him to say, oh yeah, this guy's pressing for the 53. Otherwise, you're looking at Cam Lewis making as a safety, and I mean,
doesn't he already have a backup corner spot set?
And that's the thing. And I heard somebody say they speculated that the reason why Tyron Johnson didn't play was because they couldn't afford to lose the number 1 and number 2 corner nickels. So Cam Lewis is pretty much penciled in as the number 2 nickel right now, which is fine.
Yeah, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
Listen, he came in the league as a corner. He's never played safety.
He didn't play, and the first time he played safety was when he gave up the. It was a game. He played a good game until the Justin Jefferson reception, where he should just batted it down. That's what magnified him. I know you're blinking, but that's what magnified him as that safety that just is trash. But he's not trash. He got forced into a situation where he never played a position against a premier wide receiver.
He's a professional cornerback that should not be playing safety.
There you go.
That's the nicest way we can say that.
There you go. I mean, that's the truest way you can say it, because he was a fine cornerback.
Yeah.
But at safety, you're asked to do different things, and you can't play safety against Justin Jefferson. You can't just start trying against him.
Most actual safeties can't play safety against Justin Jefferson,
right.
So you put a guy in there who's never done it
never
before.
done it, and he played well that game until the catch.
Right.
Well, the catch part 2, because you figured the other catch was – yeah. Okay. So hey, you have any thoughts on the defense before we switch over?
I mean, their team scored 19 points.
Mm-hmm.
We only scored 23?
Yeah.
I'm not happy with that.
Before you go, you were gonna say there was a pick 6 involved. I'm just saying.
Not only did Richardson throw off his back foot on that play.
Oh no, not that one. The one we threw where Kyle Allen threw the Colts, that pick 6.
Oh, so I titled the podcast Doppleganger Allen. Kyle Allen is the absolute inverse of Josh Allen. Everything that's great about Josh Allen is what's wrong with Kyle Allen. So we'll get to that when we talk about.
I almost just snorted. Okay.
We'll get to that when we discuss offense.
Okay.
But as for defense, I think next week will probably be the bigger tell of what we can expect. When we see the defense play, the first quarter, I think they'll probably play maybe a couple of drives in the second quarter, but I can't see him playing more than a half at the very most.
No.
Especially in a 3-game preseason now. So, with that said, defense's first outing, there were some flashes of good and some stuff to work out. So I'll be nice.
I mean, that's all you can be. Well,
yeah.
Not you, but whatever. That's all I can be.
I don't.
Be nice.
Yeah, I'm trying.
I mean, like I said, like I said previous episodes, the defense is gonna look different. Are they gonna be better? That's the question. Are they gonna be better? See, people are tired of watching the boring vanilla defense that we had, but it was still effective. Now, it's fun to watch guys rush the quarterback, but it's not fun to watch guys like Pierce and Hull and all these guys take short runs and short passes and go deep and get first downs. The conversion rating was different because they were susceptible to those over the middles. They were susceptible to the shorts that go long.
Yeah.
Whereas in Frazier's defense, they weren't as much. So I think it's going to be interesting going forward to watch how you clean that aspect of the game up, because they obviously they were aggressive. Yeah, they're beautifully aggressive. I can't wait to see the numbers when the regular season comes out, in terms of percentages of rushing, and percentage of pass hurries, percentage of hits. Yeah, it's going to be fun, but what does that really mean when you're giving up 19 points just like you were before?
It means feast or famine, sir.
Feast or famine. And I actually wrote that in my notes, feast or famine defense.
Did you?
Yeah, I've scrolled past it, but
okay.
Actually, if you need to verify,
no, it's okay.
If you want to verify,
it's okay, bro. Let it go. It's okay.
Did you? Yes, I did. Don't
no,
question
it's
my
National
notes.
Lazy Day. I must prove them all wrong. You ready to get to offense?
Let's do offense. Yeah, offensively, starting with the quarterbacks. Steve Tasker said on the broadcast, it doesn't matter if Kyle Allen can run a play as long as he can help Josh Allen in the quarterback
Did you hear him
room.
say that?
Yeah.
Bro, I almost choked the TV.
I think that's a quote from Tasker by way of you, honestly.
Yeah, matter of fact, I did. I texted that to you. I said, did you hear what he just said? Like, I couldn't believe it it doesn't matter if Kyle Allen can run a play as long as he can help Josh Allen in the quarterback room.
Your $258 million quarterback. The one that was calling plays in the game on Saturday.
I like that, actually.
No, I love
like that a lot.
But what I'm saying is, to the quote, it doesn't matter if he can run a play as long as he can help Josh Allen in the quarterback room. Josh Allen was helping him.
right. How's he going to help Josh at all?
Right. I mean, whatever. I mean, you could have got Davis Webb for that. You could have got
exactly
Jordan. You could get Ken Dorsey for that if you really wanted to. So that means nothing to me, honestly. That matter of fact, what's Matt Barkley here for at this point? Isn't that his best friend?
Because Josh likes looking at his wife.
But well, no women safe around Josh anymore. But
That's cold.
But I digress. If your best friend is Matt Barkley, who have you had on this team for however many years because he's your friend on the practice squad, what is he for? His sole job is to help you in the quarterback room.
I can see this from, and this is something that I thought about yesterday too when I was watching Barkley play. He has to be an anticipatory thrower.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that style of play, for Josh to be around that and to see that and to have that explained to him, does make him a better quarterback, because Josh is not that type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a spot thrower, and he is a, throw bullets all over the field as much as possible.
He doesn't throw you open. He just throws you.
Exactly. Very rarely does he throw a guy open.
Right.
He just puts the ball on you once you get open.
Yeah, he's going to smack you hard.
Right.
Smack you hard with it. And that's something that most quarterbacks can't do. So it's hard to evaluate that kind of situation when we really rarely have ever seen that before.
Yeah.
Somebody can throw late and it still be on time. Somebody that is not throwing you open because he's fearing that he's going to just lead you too far, or the ball doesn't get there on time because he still doesn't know how to take anything off the ball per se.
Right.
But yeah, so I don't understand the whole logic behind what Tasker said in regards to Kyle Allen. To me, Barkley was far and away the better quarterback in the game.
Easily.
I mean, I wrote it here, as you can see. Matt Barkley has the Pennington-like accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense because he has no arm strength whatsoever. I mean, that thing was a rainbow every time. I mean, I was like, wow, he's gonna lob it up again. Okay, wow, that's up there. Okay,
but he throws it so early, nobody's in the spot to make a play.
And they just got time to come down and just wait for it. But he makes it work, and that's the thing where it's not something you can really coach in terms of technical. It's something that he does, and he has to know how to accentuate with the years of experience that he has.
Right. I got to tell you, Doppleganger Allen almost threw like 3 interceptions in like the first 2 series. And if I'm not mistaken, the first team offense, according to my notes, they only played 2 series.
Yeah. Yeah, Allen played into the second quarter. He wasn't supposed to.
Right, but after the first 2 series, he's playing behind a backup offensive line. At that point, I stopped paying attention because you can't really.
Yeah.
No offense to the backup guys, but you can't judge.
And it's funny you said, because I actually watched them more than, well, I mean, for the most part they were backup guys anyway, but I watched a lot of backup because I'm trying to see where the team is constructed once you get past, especially offensive line, once you get past the front 5. But in terms of Kyle Allen, watching it again, he wasn't as bad as he was when I first watched it. He wasn't good, but he wasn't a dumpster fire. I want to replace him. I definitely want to replace him. But I saw some things that he did well, some things that were beyond his control, like Shavers dropping one of those balls, like what was it? Shakir dropped the one easy out.
That 20-yard pass he had to Shakir was nice.
Oh, both of those the receptions were good.
Yeah.
But who threw it? Was it Barkley? No, was it Allen that threw the Sternberger one?
I don't.
Is that I don't remember, because Sternberger it was a good throw. It was a tough throw in coverage. And it just, Sternberger just didn't make he didn't finalize the play. But it was a great throw. It was anticipation. He trusted his arm. He got it in there. But I digress. Yeah, Kyle Allen. He was a victim of a couple of drops, couple of bats, couple of bad. He had a couple of bad protections. The offensive lines didn't do him as much as I thought they did. It was solid. It wasn't done. When he comes to Ryan Bates, he snapped it over Kyle Allen's head one time. And it was a shotgun, so they went back to it in third and fourth down, and they it was clean. But it's just the fact that I don't know if it was Tasker or who he was with on the broadcast said, getting used to snapping to a 6'5" quarterback.
Yeah.
It's a different dynamic. So
it's true.
But he cleaned it up really fast, and I said, that I don't want to hold that against Kyle Allen. The pick six for me was on Allen more so than Shavers. I mean, Shavers should have caught it, could have caught it. But when you're throwing a screen pass to a wide receiver, you don't put the ball behind him for a hands catch. The screen pass has to be in a position where he can catch it and run with the ball. But also Shavers did have, he had one drop where it looked like the defensive back may or may not have actually grabbed his arm. Mm-hmm. And so he tried to make a one-hand grab. So for me, Shavers had one drop out of his 5. The others I could understand, I could get with. Moving on to the running backs that I saw in this game, obviously James Cook got busy. He got busy. Let's call it what it is. He's that guy. He's RB1.
His vision on the touchdown run.
Yeah.
So according to my notes here, it was a single back wing formation, right? So you had 2 tight ends lined up on the left hand side. Yep. Knox was the outside tight end. Mm-hmm. Kincaid was kicked inside next to Dawkins, right?
Exactly.
And even though Kincaid got blown up on that play, he didn't lose his footing to be so far out of position as to not get in the blocker's way, so to speak.
Yeah, he impeded him.
But here's the other thing, too, about this play. The defensive players for the Colts went right to the gap that they were supposed to go to stop the play. Technically, that was supposed to be a loss for Cook.
Yeah.
But because of their overcommitment to getting into that gap, he saw an opening on the outside and had the burst, the vision, and the speed to beat them all and make them pay for it.
And that's something that we didn't see last year with Singletary. Singletary would pop to the outside, but he didn't have that second gear like we saw on that run you're speaking of. I mean, we did kind of make fun of Dalton Kincaid on the block earlier in the show with regards to Welcome to the NFL, young man built, but. He held the block long enough, and when you have a running back with that kind of speed, with that kind of agility, with that kind of quickness, it does work. Dawson Knox rode this guy down, and Trent Sherfield, which we didn't mention, was the wide receiver on that side who rode this guy out of the play. So Cook had the wide open gap. I did notice as well there was a play. I shouldn't say there was a play. There was the play where Cook got the draw, and I don't know if you saw it from the back end. That gap was humongous.
Yeah, but they were pass rushing on that down.
The thing is, what I wanted to bring to light was the fact that Connor McGovern had the one-on-one block on whoever the D tackle was on that side, and then I think it was Morse came over and helped out Osiris Torrance, who cleared out, and then from there it was Cook who was by himself to shake that linebacker, and that's something that people said he has to get stronger. People say he has to get bigger and get stronger. And he showed that he can shake a tackle. He showed that he could shed something, as opposed to just going down first contact. So that, for me, was a big show in regards to what we have to see with the evolution of James Cook.
Yeah. I have one thought on the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
It looked more like James Cook picking the perfect spots than it did the offensive line winning and creating massive gaps for Cook to run through.
Yeah, and I think that's why I illustrated that one play, because that was a huge gap, but otherwise it was Cook getting skinny.
Right. Right. And even with matter of fact, there was a play where Cook got blown up. I think this is right before the 8.5-yard run.
Mm-hmm.
Cook got blown up because, and I think this was also a single wing formation, where Dawkins, the defensive end, when the ball is snapped, goes at Kincaid instead of trying to go more inside at Dawkins.
Mm-hmm.
And Dawkins effectively just walks right past the defensive lineman and gets to the second level, and he's looking for a defender coming in. It's already too late. Kincaid is not winning that block against the defensive end. You've left him now to his death. his football death.
He demised
in that moment
right there.
Right. So he basically gets pushed right into the hole, and two defensive linemen from the Colts make the play and stuff him in the backfield. So, there were some things like that where it's a mental error.
Mm-hmm.
But for a player of what is supposed to be Dawkins's caliber,
mm-hmm.
you can't do that in preseason.
Right.
You've been practicing long enough to be able to know who you're supposed to tag. And for you to leave your tight end that can't block and try to get to the second level to grab a linebacker, like, if anything, as a left tackle,
you gotta chip him.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to give him a little something before I go.
Mm-hmm.
Get him into the body of Kincaid so that Kincaid can anchor and really get a solid block going. But he's like, Kincaid's footwork in terms of blocking is not even where it needs to be. Like, it's part of the reason why he was pushed off balance so many times.
Mm-hmm.
He's not anchoring
he doesn't have it there
properly.
Yet.
Right.
Yeah, he doesn't have it yet.
Right. So I really need to see that get better next game. I need to see that the offensive line can establish a run game that makes it easy for James Cook.
But my question was, if you want Kincaid to be your pass catcher and Dawson Knox to be your inline blocker, why are you not reversing and having Dawson Knox next to left tackle versus Kincaid every time?
Because Knox can set the edge better. He's a much better blocker. So if you in on those stretch run plays, what you really want is you want that tight end at the end there. I guess in a single wing formation, you want that tight end to be able to get the to get to the edge before the defensive player and give Kincaid a chance to kick out. Right? So I get why they slide Kincaid inside. He's essentially being protected in the blocking scheme by Knox and Dawkins, right? So it makes sense, but I think I side with you at that point. Like, why put him on the field in that position when you can just put him out wide and put another blocking tight end there?
That's kind of where I'm going. Yeah, that's really where I was going with that. I didn't understand why I didn't notice it as much. I didn't think about it as much until you said it. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, if you need a blocker, especially when you're trying to, you have the inside run like the one that was blown up, you would want the better blocker, especially if you're asking Dawkins to go to the second level.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. Like, the way he looked on that play was like he didn't expect to not have someone to block. You know what I mean? He just kind of walked into space, and a linebacker wasn't even rushing towards him. He saw a linebacker start to make a move, and then he started to put his arms out. By that time, the play was already over.
Would the play have been over had that defense been blocked a little better though? You think it would have been stopped? Yeah.
I think Cook would have had a hole to go through.
And that's kind of what I was getting at. Not getting at, but that's kind of what I was thinking when I asked you why you wouldn't reverse them, and you kind of agreed, but not. Because your logic is right, but it seems like you need the better tight end there to be the better blocking tight end there to make that vehicle go. Because if it would have been a Knox who could anchor or at least turn the guy and let Dawkins go, or Dawkins missed the chip and get to the second level, you still had 2 or 3 yards on that play. But when you draft Dalton Kincaid, he can't block. He's not supposed to block. it's kind of odd to put him there for me, in that situation. Luckily, it wasn't a third down or a fourth and short or something like that.
Right.
Because that would have been bad.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to park on James Cook because he was it. He did it. He did it.
100%.
Latavius Murray to me, he was. Latavius Murray to me was not 33 years old today on Saturday. To me, he looked like a running back who could play and start on certain teams.
Rush for about 800-900 yards.
Yeah.
He looked like he could do it.
And catch. He was coming out of the backfield. Kyle Allen did find him, and I think the broadcast did mention, that's something that was missing last year was that short dump off to the running back. And
yep.
I mean, at 6'3", 230 pounds in space
with that speed.
Yeah, and he's 33 and he still got it.
Yeah,
he still got it. So Damian Williams got it. Damian Harris has to do something because Latavius Murray he's shown in one game, unless he just throws up on himself next week, which I doubt that he deserves to be on his team and he deserves to get snaps.
Right.
I thought it was interesting that Darrington Evans didn't go with the third string. It was more so Jordan Mims. Whatever. Mims he had a good reception where he hurdled the guy, but
I didn't see it.
You didn't see it?
Nah.
You turned it off?
I don't think I turned it off. I think I was just.
I wasn't there. I was having an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like again, once I started hearing Darrington Evans, I was just like, this is too much.
Overload, sensory overload.
Yeah, it's too much about players that aren't going to make a difference during the season.
I mean, I can shorten this for you. Darrington Evans and Jordan Mims, they were kind of interchangeable. They're the same guy. I mean, Darrington Evans, to me, will have a better shot because you might not have seen it, but the kick return, they tried out Isabella 3 or 4 times and he did absolutely nothing. I mean, zero, less than zero. It was a waste. But when Evans got there, he had a 40-yard return right away. And it wasn't about the speed. It was more so about the patience, the suddenness, the reading of the blocks, and getting to the hole. And I think Evans has shown you just in that one return that he has what it takes to be that guy that can line up back there. Also, Hardy didn't flash anything either.
Yeah, I noticed that. I expected him to do more.
Yeah, he didn't flash anything either. So it was on offense. I guess we can just segue right into the wide receiver on offense. Isabella was nice. He was fun to watch, but you got to keep in perspective. Preseason pledge. Also, who he was playing against. He got let go for a reason. He didn't get retained for a reason. He was out of football for a reason. Will it be a second coming of Isabella? Maybe. But his first stint really wasn't anything that was that noticeable.
Right.
You look at what he did in Arizona. Yeah, he had a good that one play. I forget how long it was exactly. 30 yards or whatever it was, where he caught it. He froze the linebacker, caught it over the middle, and took off. That's what 4.3 speed gets you. Mm-hmm. But it's more to wide receivers' nuances than that speed. It's
right.
fun, but you got to be able to do that often.
Yeah.
In different sets, different looks.
On different routes.
Different routes all the time, different depths, and with different quarterbacks. And for somebody at his level, you have to be somebody that makes it, as I say, on special teams. And he showed nothing worth talking about in the special teams department. Outside of him, I mean, I'm not going to segregate him, but when you look at the wide receiver room as a whole, there was just talent. That's going to be probably the hardest cut of the whole team.
Yeah.
They
may keep 6 or 7 this year.
You have to. I mean, especially when you have guys like Justin Shorter and Shavers. I mean, Shavers not so much in terms of what you can do with him. I was going to go towards Shorter. Could be more that Kincaid backup in terms of you could find a role on tight end, that outside, that slot tight end look. You know what I mean?
No.
Okay, he's not an inline blocker, but he can be that bigger body. He's not an outside guy.
No.
You don't think so? You think Shorter is going to make it as an extra Z?
I don't want that for the only big receiver that we have that has a shot to really be a contributor on the team.
Okay, so if we don't put him near, then he's on the practice squad.
Shorter?
That's it. Practice squad, or you got to be more versatile. Because he didn't get a receptor. He didn't get any snaps. He didn't do anything except special teams. So if you're going to keep him in his Kumaro role, then fine. But you're looking at Shavers. You're looking at Patman. You're looking at Isabella. You're looking at guys
who are our solid 5 receivers right now.
I mean, you got Davis, Diggs,
Hardy.
Yeah, Hardy. But I'm looking at let's see who else is after that. You got
Sherfield.
I'm going past that too. So I'm actually trying to get to the 5th. So out of the 5 that we have,
that's what's making me say Shorter, because
Khalil Shakir.
Okay, so there's 5.
Keyshawn Johnson outplayed him. Keyshawn Johnson definitely. If one of these guys is not going to make the team, it had to be him. It'd have to be. And that's why I'm saying you have to find a way, because Aitman even had some good catches.
So you think Shorter, as a 5th round pick, survives being on the practice squad for long?
No, I mean, it's just a wasted pick at that point. If you're looking at not trying to, and that's kind of where I'm going. If you're looking at not trying to find somewhere to put him, you're going to lose him on a practice squad. And that's kind of why I said, okay, he's going to be that tweener tight end type, or he's practice squad, because I don't see him beating out a Keyshawn Johnson the way he played on Saturday. I don't see him beating out anybody, really. Desmond Patton.
But Keyshawn Johnson has been a practice squad guy for I don't know how long. Like at this point in his career.
Where'd he come from?
Huh?
Where'd he come from? San Francisco?
San Francisco.
Okay, so I mean, that's the thing though. When you're looking at performance on the field, Shorter did nothing. So he's going to be a practice squad only player, or a special teams only player, because that's what they said he shined at. He's a special teams maven. Fine.
Shorter?
Yeah. I mean, let's look at let's.
I hope to God they did not just draft a 5th round special teams player.
Well, let's look at it like this, and you have to give me a second, guys, on the lookup, because I didn't prepare for this, but Justin Shorter. I just want to look and see how many snaps he got at wide receiver.
Austin Shorter. All right. Ran a 4.55.
Yep, he ran a 4.55, and
so
if you're looking
these
at
are his PFF grades.
I'm looking at no, not grades. I'm looking at how many snaps he got at each wide receiver's position. So you look at, he got 3 snaps in the slot. He got 14 snaps at wide receiver, and so he got 14 snaps at wide receiver. So he played 17 snaps of receiver and did nothing. He wasn't even noticeable on the field. I can tell you, based on listening at based on looking, and that's another indictment. Why wasn't he? I have to look further at the all 22. Was there opportunities or? But the thing is, when you're playing 17
I mean, the
snaps,
plays might have been called to specific players, like
that one play that one for sure that was to Sherfield that was knocked away. That was definitely to Sherfield and only Sherfield from Kyle Allen. But I mean, Shorter. He had 3 kick coverage snaps. He had, I mean, so if you're talking about he's going to make the team, how do you make it fit? And I'm not saying I don't want him on the team based on size alone. You need size. Right. But when you're looking at the guys that performed on Saturday, it's just hard to say, yeah, you guys popped, but you're still not going to win against this guy who did nothing. Right. So that's going to be an interesting room to keep looking at. You look at the receiver room in Buffalo in terms of who's young, who's old, who's been here forever, who's popping, who's dropping. There's so many intangibles. That rhymed. There was so many intangibles.
I thought you was about to start popping out with some Biggie in a minute.
Ooh, nah. But you know, when you're trying to construct this room, there's a lot that goes into how are you going to do it, and who's going to play, who's going to dress, who's going to be inactive, and who can be poached from this team. You know, like you said, Keyshawn Johnson has been a practice squad player. So, I mean, I don't say the book is written on him, but he's not as desirable as some people we've talked about. Desmond Patton was in Indy last year. And Shavers is 6'6", 210 pound wide receiver who had a case of mild dropsies, but like I said, 2 of those plays I don't really put on him. But in regards to going forward with Shakir actually once again could have boosted himself. He could have done it. But what I would have done after that drop, I would have went back to him. I'd have put him back in there, say, make a play, because he had 2 big plays. He showed you what he can do. The drop, you don't want to end the game on a drop. Right. Kyle Allen ended the first quarter with nothing. But then when you put him in the second quarter, I don't know whether it was a drop in competition because he played in the second team or what. But he definitely showed something that he didn't show in the first quarter. And I think Shakir had a great chance at righting his wrong in that drop. It would have been a first down.
Yeah, I was happy to see Shakir do what he was doing, and I think in a way there's a part of me that hopes that his play forces them to put him on the field, to stick the Hardy signing and even to a degree the Sherfield signing, which to me I like the Sherfield signing a lot better than I like the Hardy signing.
You and me both.
But Shakir deserves it in my mind. I think the opportunities that he was given last year and how he performed and the flashes that you've seen just in this one game, given more time and opportunity, he will become more consistent in making those kinds of plays. I see a lot of Wes Welker in his game, to be honest. Yeah. I really do. The way that he's a hands catcher. He's not a body catcher. His ability to catch the ball and make plays after the catch. I think he deserves more than any receiver on this team that doesn't already have a starting spot. He deserves a starting spot.
And that's funny you say that he's a hands catcher, not a body catcher, because on the drop it was a body catch. The two ridiculous catches he had were with his hands. Yep. But the easy gimme was towards his body, and he dropped it, yep. Which is, I actually didn't put it in my notes that I noticed that, and I think it's hilarious that you said it without us talking about it before the game, because it was before the show, because it was noticeable. Yeah. And that's something worth watching going forward. When you can't catch with the body as much as you can with your hands, there are certain things you can and can't do in terms of angles and positions where you are to catch the ball. Right. So we'll keep tabs on that and see what happens. And I did want to make a note. It was drawn to my attention that on an earlier show, before I knew what the heck I was talking about, knew what I was doing, I neglected to say Marcel Aitman was a 4.62 receiver. I forgot the 6. I got nervous and said 4.2, I guess.
So he's actually slow, people. Is what
he's slow,
yeah.
But
not academically, speed wise, miles per hour.
But the thing about Marcel Aitman, and we talked about it as well, and we kind of got into it with the talk about Shorter. I could see Aitman being that big. I don't know, do they call it a big slot? That Greg Olsen kind of. Yeah. And I could see that being a role. Whereas, you can choose between Aitman and Shorter, and obviously Shorter would win that bet. Well, I don't want to say obviously, because Aitman did have 2 incredible catches on Saturday as well. Mm-hmm. So he made a case for himself. Well, albeit not a great case. You got to produce a lot more than just 2 catches in a game. But I think that's something that the competition, believe it or not, might be something worth watching. 2 similar bodied guys who run similar speed, 4.5 and Shorter, and 4.6 in Aitman. See what they do going forward, because the Shorter doesn't get targets, doesn't get receptions. It's not looking good for him as a honest wide receiver.
Let me ask you this real quick before we move on to the next point. In your experience, mm-hmm. are there players who may not practice well, mm-hmm. but when in the game,
absolutely,
they blow up?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and you got to mitigate that. I mean, that's in all sports. Like they say, there are some players that practice well, some players that hit the game well, and so in my experience, coaches especially on high school and some college level, they don't know how to differentiate and respect the two as independent. You have to coach them differently. You have to demand different of those guys when one is a better practice player than a game player and one is a better game player and just doesn't care in practice. So to your question, I do see kind of where you're going with it in terms of is there a difference or can we really evaluate people based on the game versus based on what we don't see in training camp? And we can't.
Well, so this is my thought process. When you look at your prototypical chip on his shoulder underdog type of player, two things happen. Their numbers don't pop off the sheet. Otherwise, they would be more highly recruited. They would be in bigger schools. They would have better opportunities.
Right.
Second thing is their play on the field speaks for itself.
Right.
You brought these players in because their play on the field speaks for itself. They come to your training camp. They get into your off-season program. They get into practice, and you're not seeing in practice what you saw on the field.
Right.
Why, as a coach, would you have the mentality that the two need to equal each other? If you were trying to assess, in my mind, it makes more sense to operate that way when you've got a locker room full of highly talented guys that just haven't seemed to put it on the field yet. Then you want to look at their practice habits. You want to look at, what they're doing to put themselves in a position to make those plays on the field, right? So from that standpoint, what I would like to see happen to a larger degree is for our coaches to have the understanding that, look, Khalil Shakir is a playmaker. He's a dog. When he's on the field, he just makes plays, right? You got to give him an opportunity to do that.
Yep.
Khair Elam is a dog. He just makes plays.
They're the same.
Put him on the field, give him a shot.
They're the same.
Stop with all of this. You got to earn it in practice. Stop with all of this. You have to meet my criteria before I can trust you to get on the field.
Yeah.
I get it. That's how coaching works. But to in the macro, this is big time money we're talking about. This is people's tax dollars we're talking about, and this is massive amounts of money's worth of entertainment that we're talking about, and these are people's livelihoods that we're talking about.
Yep.
Okay, so drop the whole holier than thou, everything's got to be done right. The business is what the business is. You got a first round draft pick, you got to give him the job. You got to give him the best shot available to keep his spot. It needs to be his spot until he loses it.
Right.
That's how it should be. Okay? You got a fifth round receiver that comes in and starts playing like Shakir. You got to say to yourself, you know what? There's no way I can keep him off the field.
Right.
Playing the way that he's playing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I agree 100%. For me, in my experience, like I said, I tell you guys all the time, I was a basketball player. I didn't play football until much later in life.
Much later in life.
Much later in life. Much later. I was 25 when I first put on the shoulder pads. So
plus 10.
Huh?
What?
Plus 10. Oh, that was 4 years ago. Okay. But when I say, because in practice when I played basketball, I used to get in trouble for not celebrating. Like, I would make a big play, I'd dunk on somebody, go up and block a layup, pin somebody, and just be like Tim Duncan, just like stoic. Like, in my mind, that's what I was supposed to do. Yeah. So I was better in practice than I was in the game, but you got to know how to bring that person's mentality, that person's attitude, that person's talents to another setting, which would be the game setting.
Right.
And in practice, if the guy is performing in the games, you don't want him to be laxed as it equates to practicing habits and stuff like that. Yep. But you got to understand, there are maybe 2 or 3 things you want to improve on during practice, but you can't take the totality of what he did in practice and say you're not good enough, or when the guy is getting you 10 touchdowns or whatever the case may be in the season.
Exactly.
So to your point about Kyrie Elam, I wouldn't like to say he's a better practice player with the notes and all the stories that we hear about him.
Yep.
But it's just something that they're looking for in him that I can't tell you what it is. He's not doing. I wish I knew. And Khalil Shakir is what? Put the man out there.
Right.
He's gonna get his drops. How many drops did Gabe Davis have?
Exactly.
Exactly. I mean, but there are plays to be made. When Cole Beasley is gone, who's replacing him?
Right.
Trent Sherfield, maybe, but it should be Shakir and Sherfield. Those are my two for the slot.
I don't see Sherfield having the same level of separation that Shakir could get.
No, he's not as shifty. He's a bigger body.
Right.
But if in terms of that slot position, if it's not one of those two, it shouldn't be anybody.
Right. Right. I agree. We got to start closing up the show soon.
Yeah. I mean, we'll just get to the offensive line real quick. You snoozing over there? You good?
No, I'm not snoozing. My dinner's been ready for about a half an hour now. So
is it cold?
No, I'm just.
What you got?
I'm just playing. I'm just playing.
Actually, when you were talking at one point, I was thinking about the steak I was going to make after the show.
The what?
The steak I was going to make after the show. Oh, I'm having some ribeye tonight. I'm on vacation. You see the vacation beer coming in?
The vacation beer.
Ribeye is happening.
5 o'clock shadow is in.
Dude,
large.
It's in effect. I don't care today. I don't even care. You know what? I don't care. I'm having a ball.
That's the life, man. That's the life, brother. That is the life. I'm happy for you.
Honestly, lastly, getting to the offensive line, which I thought we may have talked about earlier in the show, because that was another focal point for me with Osiris Torrance. I think he was good.
Yeah,
I think he
looks
excellent.
100%.
I think Ryan Bates Bates didn't do anything wrong, but I think, you look at somebody who can play 4 or 5 positions on the offensive line versus Osiris Torrance, who stepped in and played with the first and second team, and nothing got past the guy. He had a couple of chips where the guy, he got knocked into him and he sucked them all in, but he was there, he was present, he looked like he belonged.
Yeah, I think every time that he needed to make a block or that was part of the play design, he did great. There was one time where he was a little slow to get out of his stance, but I mean it was more of a draw play to the left side.
Yeah.
So that doesn't matter.
They'll clean that up.
Right.
They'll clean that up.
But I think everybody except Dawkins, from what I saw on the first team offensive line, they were solid. They got to their guys, and they for what their capabilities are, they did the job that they were supposed to do to give Cook enough space to make a decision and make people miss.
Yeah.
In terms of pass blocking, this offensive line has kind of always been a better pass blocking line than run blocking line.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, I didn't see too much that said to me, this team is better, or, whatever the case may be. I want to see them against a better defensive line than the Colts defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Colts also, I don't think they played DeForest Buckner.
No.
I know Kwity Paye played, but I mean, I think at that point that was their only first team defensive lineman that they had. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Feel free to yell at me in the comments.
Kwity Paye had 6 snaps. Al-Qadim Muhammad, he actually popped. He was disruptive.
Yeah.
That's probably the only real defensive player that I remember on the D line, really making a name for himself.
Yeah.
I mean, they had good players. Don't get me wrong; they weren't bad at all. But it just seems like Muhammad made a couple big plays, and to bring it up, behind your boy Deion Dawkins was Ryan Vandermark, who was horrible. He was horrible. They started him above Tommy Doyle for some reason. I don't know why. He was trash on the left side.
Tommy Doyle's probably not culture material.
Well, no, Tommy Doyle played a lot. He actually got hurt behind.
Oh, okay.
He got hurt later on, but Vandermark started on the left side behind Dawson. They moved him to the right side, which is even worse. If you look at pro football, they had him rated as a 39 grade in pass blocking.
Mm-hmm.
So, it
doesn't matter. You know why? Because they have Deion Dawkins.
He has 33.6 in pass blocking. Only person worse than him was never mind. Only 2 people worse than him: James Cook which is fine.
He's a running back.
And Ike Botker is the reason why Tommy Doyle got hurt, because he got walked back in on the sack and folded on Doyle's leg.
Ooh.
And Doyle, he toughed it out. He played. He kept playing. He got up and I think they had to pull him out because you could tell he was laboring. He was favoring that leg, but he didn't.
Doyle's in a contract here, if I'm not mistaken.
Who's that?
Doyle. He's in the contract.
He
was
came
drafted
with Spencer Brown, so maybe either this year or next year. But I mean, at that point, you're in a fight for your life regardless. So, you figure. I would say Tommy Doyle over Ryan Vandermark. Vandermark was abysmal, and I don't even know how old he is. He's not a clue. It says date of birth parentheses.
Oh my God!
That tells you how relevant he is.
You wonder
he really,
if that's even a real player.
I witnessed somebody out there. He's like roster center or something
somewhere.
Yeah, they got him off NBA Live.
Yeah.
But he was horrible. Ike Blacker was horrible. These two guys do not belong in the mix on this team right now. They were relegated to the last line of defense. They can be staffed on the practice squad. Blacker, they'll say he's getting over the Achilles.
I will give the Bills credit. It's hard to find offensive line players.
Yeah.
Who are bad enough to stay behind that starting offensive line on the depth chart. That's got to be one of the hardest jobs to find and fill, is the guy who is worse than the starters that we have on this line.
I mean, Ryan Vandermark is him. Not that he's lowercase him.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, they're winning.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy Doyle.
Found a guy.
You see, Tommy Doyle, he was average at run blocking, but he was actually pretty good at pass blocking. So if you want to watch back, not you per se, but he got snaps on the right and left side. I would like to see him at guard too, because he did get some run at guard last year, and he actually is versatile in a Ryan Bates kind of setting. So that could be your two reserves right there. Outside of those guys, I really didn't notice a lot. Ike Bacher, like I said, was pretty bad. Vandermark was pretty bad. After Doyle got hurt, he did have a good run. He actually pulled across the offensive line to pick up a rusher on the far side so I noticed that in terms of his mobility after he hurt his knee. So I'm thinking structurally he's probably pretty good. He might have had a bruise, or maybe it bent weird, but nothing too crazy. I hope. The last thing I really have for the offensive line is Nick Brocker, which was our 6th round draft pick last year. He actually won the Ken Hole Award trophy last year in 2022, which is interesting. If you notice, he wore 67 in the game. So I didn't know that number wasn't retired. I thought it would be, especially since he's he's deceased now. But yeah, I think that's interesting. Nick Brocker, he wasn't bad. He wasn't noticeable, but he wasn't something that popped, like I said. I think there is room if he can find a way to be versatile at guard. You could have your three. I think right now what you want. What's that?
Go the Rick Bates route.
Yeah, I think that's what I say. I think Rick Bates, Tommy Doyle, and maybe one more as a versatile guy.
Yeah. Where
Tommy Doyle and Rick Bates can play all 5.
Right.
Doyle is better off left and right tackle, and if you can find a guy that can play, maybe the interior 3.
Yeah.
That's your 8 right there. If you want to keep 8 or whatever you want to do. But the construct, we have to see against Pittsburgh what they're going to do. I hope that they move some things around. I hope they don't go and run it back like they did on Saturday. I want to see Balen Spector get more run with the defense. I want to see what he can do with better competition.
He might have a shot now with the way Dodson has been playing.
Dodson was horrible, but let's see if Bernard comes back. I don't think he's going to come back this week. I think they say he's a week every other day kind of player.
Okay.
So we'll see. But I don't want to see Dodson just get a stranglehold on that defensive middle linebacker position.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, we covered a lot.
Yeah.
And
2 hours worth.
2 hours flew by.
Thank you guys staying with us. I mean, that was great.
Absolutely flew by. It's insane how many times we do this. Every time I'm just shocked every time. For everybody who has been with us to this point, we just continue to thank you.
Yes.
We continue to be very appreciative of your faithfulness and your willingness to listen to us on a regular basis and hear all of our, hilarity and nonsense and our opinions and all that kind of stuff. But we thank you again. For those of you just tuning in for the first time, please, if you like what you heard and you want to hear more, you can hit that subscribe button. We're going live on a regular basis now, especially during the NFL season. You'll get notifications whenever we're on, and you can find us the fastest way that way. As it stands right now, if you go and type in the Post Podium Podcast, we're probably third or fourth down on the list or something like that right now. Yeah, we were coming up a little bit. We got a few more subscribers, so the more the merrier, and the higher on the list that'll put us. But
I mean, honestly, I just wanted to say too that I mean, yeah, it'd be nice to get paid for it, but we don't get a cent for this.
Right.
It's just fun for me. It's fun to get in the same room with you when we'll talk about football. It's fun to let you guys in on my brain, on your brain, and this is what it is. It is what it is. I'm having a ball.
Yeah.
I really am. I'm having a ball.
Yeah. All right. With that said, I'll take the mouse from you, brother, so I can set everything.
Cue it back up.
Roll out.
Cue it back up.
Very soon, I'm gonna have to get one of my children in here to start setting some music up on the side.
Can they sing for us?
My daughter probably could.
Yes. I think all of them should. You have a little chorus.
So once again, we thank everybody for tuning in. I think next week, who do we play next week?
Pittsburgh.
And what do you think we're going to be looking for in that game really quick?
I think I'm going to look for the middle linebacker again. I'm going to look to see what the offensive line does. I really want to see what the order for wide receivers are. And, of course, our boy Kaiir Elam, we want to see what they do with him. Are they going to give him some rope? Because I think, and I'm not too sure how the structure is for this 3-game preseason, but I think you should see a couple more snaps from the number one team offense. And I would love to see Kaiir play against George Pickens. We'll love it. See what he does, because Tre'Davious White's going to get out there. But why does he have to play? He's going to be the number one right now. So let's let Kaiir, let's let Dane Jackson or Benford play and see what they got.
Right. All right. Well, we look forward to bringing you that episode after the game is played. Lastly, this has been the Post Podium Podcast. We're happy to have served you yet again, and for the house of all truth, no soap, I've been your co-host, Aramis.
And I've been tagging along, Keyshawn.
And thank you once again, and we are out.